Lightning's back.
Hello again to all and welcome back into the channel for this week's review of episode 7 of Black Lightning, which also serves as the pilot episode for the brand new Painkiller spinoff starring Jordan Calloway as a dual threat in one body, one being as Khalil and the other is Painkiller. Now, if you are new to our channel, please be advised we will deal heavily in spoilers as we discuss the events of each episode. But on this particular video, I'm going to do you a solid. The very first portion of this video will deal with my first impressions of the new episode, and then afterwards a proper review. So, I'm sure like many of you watching now, when we first got wind of a Painkiller spinoff, many of us sat back and wondered how exactly would Khalil manage his new life, given what he had been through during the run of the series and especially the third season, where Painkiller, an inward cyberbully of sorts, who was created by Odell, began to take control of Khalil, but was eventually subdued. Now, although the door was left open for Khalil and Odell, their fates wouldn't be so clear unless you had a little backstory to catch up what happened with them. Turns out they have a brand new series to figure this all out. So now upon first watching this pilot episode, I gotta say, in and of itself it was an enjoyable and surprisingly fresh experience. It never once got confusing at all, although the subject matter dealt with a lot of high-end technology mixed with some philosophy. But where science fiction shows do tend to get a bit wordy, things you don't understand yet were meant to be that way for a reason, due to it being tied to the evolving plot. We are introduced to a brand new setting, the Akashic Valley, as well as new characters that if done right could be enough to hold its own. Though I can also see why both Anissa and Grace were brought into this pilot episode so as to give your eyes a familiar comfort zone while you took in these brand new faces, such as Philk and Donald, who have taken up the cause to help Khalil keep Painkiller at bay, among other things. Now there's also another face that we've seen before that does appear at the end of this episode, but we'll definitely get into that in a few minutes.
Please get to the point.
Now, this story seems to be running parallel with the Black Lightning series, which takes place about a year or so after we last seen Khalil. Now the one thing that I quickly noticed was how the show suddenly introduces us to a more expanded Painkiller dynamic in regards to these conversations playing out in his head, which seemed to go on for a couple of minutes, but in real time is just in a few moments. They also took more time to add more nuance to Painkiller, as more so being a tangible part of Khalil's psyche, and not something that Odell was responsible for that almost suppressed Khalil's identity. This is where the two differ. So we essentially get the duality of Theseus' ship in the prior episode as explained in our last review, which I personally think would be a major facet that will be explored throughout the entirety of the Painkiller series, though should it test well with audiences. So if you have not seen the episode, stop this review. Go and watch it and then come back. Now, the theme of duality should be taken to heart and as the foundation of the show because of there being two identities in one body, which should naturally jog loose a question in one's mind. Hashtag who is the real Khalil? And besides the duality aspect, the balance of action from some nice stunt choreography by the way, as well as the color schemes which really helps the show pop off the screen, really adds to the overall experience of this pilot. In fact, as I was watching the show, one of the technological and visual inspirations for the bar, which is ran by Khalil and his team, plus the overall look of Akashic Valley, is an aesthetic that comes from both Blade Runner 2049 as well as Altered Carbon, the Netflix series. But when Khalil is talking to Philk, telling him how Painkiller, who is much like a hacker, behind a firewall and is trying to break free, of course brought to mind another inspiration for this episode, well actually two, those being Clue from Tron Legacy, and of course Agent Smith from The Matrix. And let's not forget about this very specific reference as well.
I just need guns. Lots of guns.
Guns. Lots of guns.
So now, let's talk about the main protagonist of the pilot, Maya, who as it turns out is an Odell. And much like her father Odell, Maya is as cold and calculating as her father, who I thought was a very effective and intellectually intimidating villain in the 2 seasons that he appeared in Black Lightning. If she is anything like her father Percy Odell, who rarely if ever offered long monologues to reveal his plans, and always seemed to be in control of every variable in his environment, Maya could potentially be a worthy villain for this show. I like the idea of the whole secret network of pawns that temporarily render minds of the unsuspecting subjects inoperable to collect data for and to what end, we don't really know as of yet. However, to me it's quite intriguing. Now in closing, the one job of the pilot episode is to pique the interest of the viewers at large, introduce a compelling premise, and at least the appearance of a promise to fulfill it. And if this is the job of the pilot episode, then I think this episode did just that. And who knows, even after Black Lightning has ended its run, we can still very well get those timely cameos from our favorite characters, because most of the main characters' names were in the title credits. Well, that just about wraps it up. Stay tuned in the Content Meta for more reviews just like this. There's a lot of stuff that we're working on, so please be patient. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And until then, see you then.